Only an idiot would try to explain all of Kingdom Hearts' plot in 10 minutes or less. Well, this I says I am one, so let's go. These kids are named Sora, Kairi, and Riku. Kairi's the girl, and Riku's the one with the gray hair. They live on an island called Destiny Islands, but it doesn't matter because the apocalypse happens. These assholes are called Heartless, and they cause the apocalypse. Their job is to steal your soul and become more and more of a homogenous being. They're never gonna get it. They're basically ghosts. But only Sora with the giant key that is called a Keyblade can stop them. Donald and Goofy are there for the ride because their boss, called King Mickey, decided to order them to find the guy with the key so they can help him on his quest to stop the apocalypse. They become fast friends, blah blah blah, Disney World travel around. In the meantime, Riku gets groomed by Maleficent. No, I'm not joking, this is literally the plot line. He's told that, no, Sora has new friends, but I'm your only friend. You're like a son to me. Let's hang out. Hey, are you single? Well, because of all that crap, Riku becomes engrossed into darkness, which is a power set. And Sora has to fight Riku, but it turns out Riku's possessed by an asshole named Ansem who actually caused the whole entire apocalypse. After Sora beats up Riku and beats out the demon, who is now just going to wander around a bit and be a big existential threat for the final boss, Sora kills himself because secretly Kairi's soul has been resting inside his body, and the only way to get rid of that soul so she can wake up from a coma is that. Yep, they already showed on screen. Afterwards, this asshole gets beat up by a boy, a dog, and a duck. In the next game called Chain of Memories, Sora and the gang have to go into a place called Castle Oblivion. They hope to find the king and Riku so they can reunite. Kairi's back home on Destiny Islands living her best life. The problem is there's this girl named Naminé who's brainwashing Sora to believe that she's actually Kairi. This is because some assholes called the organization want her to do it, and they're basically holding her hostage. In the meantime, Riku's just learned to handle his own demonic possession crap. He can channel his darkness into being productive. Basically, it's an allegory for mental health or some junk. But also, Riku got cloned in the meantime. This is Repliku, and he dies in this game. And Riku gets to see it. By the end of Chain of Memories, Sora's memories got fucked up so badly that he needs to be put in a coma, and Naminé has to fix everything up. It'll take about a year. In the meantime, Roxas, this character, comes into play in Kingdom Hearts 2. His own story is tragic and weird and fucked up, but basically he was part of a weird pseudo-cult business thing. Met a friend that was a clone of Sora too. Well, he's also basically copy of a copy crap. And also a guy named Axel. This guy right here is named Axel. They do their job together as co-workers, but it ends tragic. The clone girl dies and her name was Xion, but no one remembers her. And Roxas leaves the organization but gets kidnapped and put into the Matrix and also got brainwashed. After a 3-hour prologue of playing as Roxas, he fucking dies. And gets absorbed back into Sora like existentially kind of crap. If Heartless are the ghosts of Kingdom Hearts universe, then these bastards called nobodies are zombies. They believe if they can eat your soul, they'll be a whole real ass person like Pinocchio. They're ran by this asshole called Xemnas. Anyways, Sora, Donald, and Goofy are just doing their own thing, trying to find Riku and the king. In the meantime, Kairi's living her best life until she gets kidnapped by Axel and then re-kidnapped by the rest of the organization. You know how I said about Chain of Memories where an evil organization made this little girl brainwash Sora? The goal of the organization this time around is to do this to Sora. Along the way, they figured out that the villain of the first Kingdom Hearts was actually a guy named Xehanort, who stole his boss's name called Ansem, just to spite his ass, and was also a mad scientist himself. Did a little murder-suicide thing, and as a result, his Heartless looked like that, whereas nobody looked like this. Also, that's Riku, because he let the darkness control him or some crap. But things end up being Gucci. Sora reconciles with Roxas, and also he kills the final boss. Riku, it's one of the coolest sequences in all video games. Jump back 10 years ago, and we get to see little Riku and Sora and Kairi, along with the character of Terra, Aqua, and Ven. These guys are literally just made to be warriors and work with the Keyblade. They're already masters, basically. Except for this, Aqua becomes a master first, and Terra does not. Because their master, named Eriquis, who's this guy, doesn't like darkness, and Terra used darkness by accident in a little test. Eriquis isn't just dumb when it comes to managing his kids and tries to murder one of them. He's also besties with this guy named Xehanort. Yes, the same Xehanort that is the apprentice in the painting. Yeah, this is the origin story of all those weirdo bosses you fight in the first few games. This asshole is named Xehanort. He wants to steal a body because he's too fucking old now. Ventus basically has his own little plot line about being a pure light versus pure darkness crap, whatever. He ends up in a coma and lives inside a Sora's soul for a bit, for 10 years. Aqua gets trapped in super hell called the Realm of Darkness, and Eriquis is just fucking dead by the end. And because it's a prequel, Xehanort's plan wins and he steals Terra's body, and Terra tries to kill himself but fails, ends up getting amnesia instead, and becomes an apprentice of the mad scientist named Ant. Because Sora killed the other bosses in the prior game, this asshole's coming back. So now he has to do a Marco Mastery exam with Riku. It's basically a little trip for them, all things considered, where they have to be put in a coma and do like this inception crap within dreams, it doesn't matter. They're basically in the lanes between life and death. Instead, Zora gets pretty much kidnapped and turned into a puppet by the organization. They want to give him brain damage so bad he becomes a comatose vegetable so Xehanort can possess his body. Yeah, Xehanort wants to make like 13 versions of himself, and some of the prior villains end up being that. Recoda is basically AI versions of the characters wander around in cyberspace so they can figure out where Naminé's journal is. And basically they figure out that, oh wait, we need to figure out where these characters are so we can stop Xehanort. None of this matters beyond it's a whole entire thought exercise on Sora and Riku's relationship. Kingdom Hearts Key is the first game in a long line of other games that is a prequel to all this other crap that involves a whole entire war involving child soldiers with keyblades because they're trying to fight off demonic darknesses and blah blah blah. Basically, everyone and their mother dies or becomes little eldritch abomination. These things right here are called Kirithy. Yep, these little guys. They're cute, right? Well, here's the problem. When the whole entire apocalypse happens because of the Keyblade War that Xehanort is obsessed about, yeah, the villain, they decide to fuse with the Keyblade wielders and become Dream Eaters that you see in Dream Drop Distance. Ventus is like 1,000 years old or some shit, and he is from that era of fairy tales. And when the war happened, him and his buddies ended up in stasis pods going through time and space, and he ended up having no memory and became Xehanort's apprentice. The darkness in his heart turned out to be named Vanitas. Ventus is a pure light. Vanitas is literally an eldritch abomination called a pure darkness with sentient. It took on this form because it literally was adapted into Sora's heart, because when Ventus was in a coma for a bit, one time, he was actually connected to Sora when he was born as a baby. These things are called unverse, and they're the representation of Vanitas' negative emotion. Edgy as fuck, but here's the thing. Makes sense for an embodiment of darkness to make monsters manifest off of hate and spite and annoyance. And here's the kicker. Because Ventus is a pure light and Kairi's a princess of heart, which means she's also technically a princess of light. When Sora killed himself and became a heartless, yeah, that's just Sora's soul corrupted by darkness, ended up looking like that because he had a being of pure light stuck in his soul. Speaking of souls and all this other crap, Xehanort and Eraqus did not have a happy backstory either. Turns out they were part of a class that are trying to become Keyblade Masters, but end up having to be the only soul survivors because all these characters either die or get killed. Eraqus failed to kill a guy that got possessed by a pure darkness, and Xehanort had to finish the job. They were taught by their master to kill anything with darkness in its heart. Also, there's some kind of asshole named the Master of Masters who's old as balls and potentially some eldritch god, but it doesn't matter. His machinations are going to affect the series further on, but it's not Kingdom Hearts 3 or Melody of Memory. Speaking of which, in Kingdom Hearts 3, Sora has to use his power of awakening because in Dream Drop Distance, he got it being out of him through all the trauma Xehanort put him through, and his power of awakening is a simple job. He has to wake up Ventus and other characters like that. But Riku has to go find Aqua, who's in the realm of darkness. But Aqua put Vent under lock and key with her old house turned into Castle Oblivion, where the organization pretty much kept Naminé hostage in Chain of Memories. The reason why this is even happening is because Xehanort's preparing for another war, more or less, where he wants to make Kingdom Hearts again. Like, seriously, every game but Chain of Memories, and I guess Recoded is that way. The only way to stop Xehanort is either stand up and fight, or Xehanort kidnaps Princesses of Heart and reenacts Kingdom Hearts 1's plot, and gets pretty much nut-unned by a 16-year-old child. Anyways, that whole entire thing only happened because Sora used his power of awakening, which is basically reality warping time travel nonsense. He actually folded in Kingdom Hearts 3 and had to do a reset button, possessing other people and all this crap. Basically, Sora played God and now is dead. This is where Melody of Memory comes in, and Kairi has to relive her trauma so that way she can connect to Sora and find him in the afterlife. There should be an upcoming game that's in between Union Cross and Dark Road involving Xehanort. It's a ripoff of Pokemon Go with microtransactions. And yeah, Square Enix is pretty much blowing all its money on like NFTs and AI generated crap. I don't think it's gonna happen. But yeah, I explained all of Kingdom Hearts' lore and plot in 10 minutes or less.